For decades, the Vietnam War has been a Hollywood obsession. Apocalypse Now, Platoon, Full Metal Jacket, First Blood. These were blockbuster films, embraced by audiences and critics alike. And for decades, they've helped us understand a painful war and understand each other. From Spotify and the Ringer Podcast Network, I'm Brian Raftery, and this is Do We Get to Win This Time? How Hollywood Made the Vietnam War. Listen on the Big Picture feed.
This episode is brought to you by Anytime Fitness. We may talk a whole lot about sports, but when it comes to keeping fit ourselves, there's definitely room for improvement. I hit this point early July. I was just like, I am not in good enough shape. I started trying to walk at least 15,000 steps a day, or hiking, or just anything to keep my legs moving. Now it's the end of 2023. I feel great. I had a physical 3 weeks ago, and the guy was like, "You're doing great. You're doing better than you were 3 years ago." I felt great. Whatever your goals are, progress is possible thanks to Anytime Fitness. Get a personalized plan and support from an expert coach anytime, anywhere. Visit anytimefitness.com to try Anytime Fitness for free. Start to train for your life. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. See website for details. This episode is brought to you by Read, Write, Own, Building the Next Era of the Internet, a new book from entrepreneur and startup investor Chris Dixon. If you're listening to this podcast, you know what it's like to be part of a community of fans. You value the people who play, perform, and create for everyone. Well, what if there are more ways to support them, more ways to be a fan? And what if you had even more ways to connect with the teams, artists, and other creators that you love? Even though creators make the internet valuable, how much value do they get for their work? Well, that's mostly up to a few big tech companies. Shouldn't creators get more from the platforms they make successful? More value, but also more say, more control, more ownership? Read, Write, Own explores an alternative future for the internet, one that reclaims control for creators, fans, listeners, and gamers, the people who not only use the internet, but make it useful. Read, Write, Own imagines an internet built by us for us. So order your copy of the book today or learn more at readwriteown.com.
I need support staff to clear the room. Stand up and walk now.
Hello and welcome to The Watch. My name is Chris Ryan. I am an editor at theringer.com, and joining me in the bar, first time, long time, it's Andy Greenwald.
This is a wild experience.
I thought this would be cool. So Andy and I are recording. This is the first time we've ever recorded in Philadelphia.
Yeah. We're both here briefly.
Yeah.
Family business.
Separate missions.
Keep it in the family.
And then we were like, where should we record? We should record while we're here because we've never done this in Philly together after 10 plus years.
Of course. And my first thought was maybe my parents' apartment. But when I looked at the counter space, there were 6 bottles of Starbucks creamer and multiple bottles of French's mustard on everything, as well as every New Yorker published since 1991. So that was out.
My mom has the ones before 91. So that's what's on her kitchen.
They should really combine.
I know. We would have quite a library. So we decided to do this at my favorite bar at Bad Brother, which I don't know if Bad Brother is zoned for podcasting.
Oh, it's a great question.
Yeah. So if you hear any background noise, if you hear any sounds of life, that's just the way small businesses in America work.
That's just the musica de la calle, as we say. This is just what it is.
What's up with you? I've seen you socially, but we haven't recorded in a while. We had pre-recorded our mailbag.
That was the mailbag where I was like, if the strike ends tomorrow, that was 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah. How's the strike going?
I mean, I can't pretend that I've been on the front lines.
But is there any news coming out of it? Is there any offers? Has there been any negotiations?
First of all, I hope that the majority of our listeners just have a media blackout, except for this podcast.
You guys are talking about Fulton County?
Guys,
it's all going off.
Things are going crazy.
Yeah.
On Friday, the AMPTP delivered a set of responses or proposals to the guild. And then my only official take or unofficial take is that I think that it must have been somewhat serious or substantive because the Writers Guild email to all of us was quite sober.
Okay.
So there might be some movement this week. There might not. We don't actually know, but it does feel more substantive than it has for the last 3 months.
So you've been on the road just like I have. We've been traveling around the Eastern Seaboard.
Mm-hmm. What's your vibe? How do you feel about finally getting back to America?
Well, what do you mean?
The real America.
Oh, the Beast Coast?
You got out of your elitist bubble.
Yeah, it's been restorative for sure. I went up to Maine for a little while, and I was gonna say, like, when you are on vacation,
Okay.
do you go on a vacation and to quote What About Bob from yourself? And do you stop ferociously consuming new content like you usually do? Or do you like use your vacation time? How do you use it when it comes to like what you're watching? I actually don't know the answer to this question.
Well, you know, I've never said this publicly on the podcast before, but I have 2 children. So I would say that there's a lot of the watching time. There's a lot of old favorites. The Netflix film Nimona, been on heavy rotation. Haven't talked about that on the pod yet. Always grateful for an opportunity. I feel like I'm letting you down.
We have 40 minutes to fill, so if you want to go.
Oh, there's some news. We can get into it. I don't actually have any watching time.
Okay.
When I'm traveling.
Okay. Don't need to make me feel bad about it.
No. It must be nice. Why don't you tell me about it? I think I had an opportunity when I saw my parents because they were asking me about television programs. Uh-huh. And I was like, you're in luck. That's something that I can opine about. And there's a level of blankness with which they regarded me when I mentioned the various streaming platforms through which they could view some of the things I was talking about. Uh-huh. It was quite striking. So I was like, I could spend this time
showing them where FX is moved.
Showing them what Apple TV Plus is. Yeah. Or I could do literally anything else. So I didn't do it. But actually, wait, this does bring up something that's relevant to your watching interest in your question. There was this is a throwback. Okay. I feel like this is the second time this has ever happened in our long friendship.
Okay.
1997. Chris is so excited. 1997. A young me visited a young you in your apartment in Boston. This was not the Back Bay apartment, I don't think. This was you had an in-between apartment. It was the first apartment.
Yeah, I was on like Queensberry Street or something like that.
And it was before you moved in with the dudes in the band.
Yeah, so I was living by Fenway Park by myself. I had some mouse roommates, so that was cool.
That was later, right? I didn't see them on this trip. And so whenever I would come to Boston, we would, of course, go record shopping and get some things. And there was this very intense divide where I was like, generally, we have similar tastes and we're good friends.
Yeah, it was starting to diverge.
During the 12 to 18 months that we'd known each other. But we emerged blinking into the summer sun or fall, I don't know what it was, from Newbury Comics with very different purchases in our bags. I had a Belle and Sebastian EP. Yeah. And you had Promise Rings, Nothing Feels Good.
Yeah.
And I was like, this might be the end of the road for us. Little did I know I would write a book by that title in 4 years. But that was a kind of a dividing line for us. And I worry...
A dividing line because I liked Promise Ring and you
we were going in different directions.
I liked Belle and Sebastian.
Yeah, Promise Ring's good. But
Didn't I introduce you to Belle and Sebastian? Wasn't I like, you would like this?
No, first of all, how dare you? No, but we did go to a concert in Boston in October of 96 at BU.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm making it. This isn't like red state, blue state, but I am saying, guess which state you are. But
wait till you hear my Lioness thoughts.
That's what I'm getting to. My point is that we may have reached a fork in the road.
Are you worried that we're no longer on the same page?
I just think we're turning maybe a little bit into the McDLT of podcasts. You know, there's the hot side, that's you, and there's the cool side. No, the cold side, that's me, because I did have time to watch things on the plane.
And you watch Drops of God.
And I watch Drops of God, which I love so much.
I mean, there's shows that we still agree on. There's shows that we're like, okay, obviously, like we're going to talk about Reservation Dogs. The first 3 episodes have already aired on FX on Hulu, and then the first episode of the second season of Winning Time. So we're still doing our jobs.
2 episods of Winning Time.
If the second one went up already?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I wonder how the Lakers do because I don't know. I haven't seen the second one yet. Does it work out for those guys?
Not yet. But I have a feeling things will turn.
And but I spent most of my vacation, as it were. Well, I'm very, very current on And Just Like That.
That's wild. Was that a vacation choice? You're like, this is going to work for me on vacation? Or was that you and your wife are traveling?
I watch And Just Like That pretty religiously. I have to be completely honest.
Where do you put all these takes? You must have a lot of thoughts.
Well, my wife and I watch. I'm a big stickler for Sex and the City continuity.
Oh.
Yeah. So like when I'm watching, I'll be like, that doesn't really feel like the Miranda that I know.
But also like... I was not a big Sex and the City viewer, but I know that there were certain episodes that were iconic. Like Carrie had a something with a firefighter at one point, right? Do you feel like the emotional memory of that dalliance lingers to this day? Like
just the firefighter part, or
I don't remember anything else about it.
I think Sarah Jessica Parker is an elite comic actress.
Really?
Yeah, I think she's really, really delightful. Yeah. Yeah.
So you like the show? You're all in.
Why are you being so like confrontational with me? We're just because we're in a bar?
No, honestly, I think it's because I don't have a mic stand. And so I feel a little
So
bit.
you've started out this podcast. You're like, we no longer like the same things.
I feel a little bit like Maury Povich or something. Would you like to know someone who does like Drops of God? I'm going to bring him out right now. He's a special guest.
Are you worried that we should start doing like one pod a week together
Mhm.
and then one pod a week separately where we cover the shows that we want to cover?
No, I just want to make sure that we still look. One of the things that the recent indictments have shown us is that we're just Americans just aren't talking to each other anymore. You know what I mean?
Is that what?
That's what they've shown
There was
us.
a lot of talking going on in those indictments.
That's true. That's perhaps too much.
Some signatures.
Okay, fair. All right. No, I'm not. I just want to know where I want to take our temperature because I wanted to go with you on a special ops journey.
Yeah, you didn't
I didn't
really go there.
Quite make it.
Yeah.
And, I feel like you're not really up on Camille's quest to identify the really rare Italian red wine that will unlock the key to her father's
What pace
cellar.
are you watching Drops of God at?
Well, like a true connoisseur, I have to sort of savor, swirl and sip. I think I got 2 left.
Okay.
It's a really good show.
We had Hijack together, so like we're fine.
Okay.
Yeah. And is there anything else in entertainment news that has been like grabbing your attention?
Is there anything else Philadelphia specific you'd like to talk about while we're here?
Like the Eagles?
No, just like you have anything related to the city, to being in the city that you feel like we should reflect on for the purposes of the show?
I mean, it's been an awesome time back on the East Coast. So what happens when I come back here is obviously I get pretty nostalgic. So I wind up listening to a lot of older music. This was spurred on by the fact that I had no idea this was coming, but and I know that you already know this, but there's going to be a new version of one of our shared beloved albums, The Replacement's Tim.
Yeah.
And it's the Let It Be version of Tim, which is essentially like a remixed version of this record that I thought sounded pretty good, honestly.
It sounded loud.
Yeah.
It sounded really good.
And that kind of spurred me into listening to a lot of like 80s left of the dial college rock, which might be the best music ever made.
Can we just start calling this bearcore? Because I feel like Chris Storer and his gang like
Kind of
pushed this back into the middle
But
of the
this is
table.
the thing is I'm finding it's kind of challenging is that when I'm on the elliptical and I'm like I still need to just
such a low key flex, right?
climb to content
Uh-huh.
mountain. I'm like, okay, I got to watch this. This is coming out. This is coming out. This is coming out. But then when I'm just by myself and the way that we consume this stuff and like on Spotify or on these streaming services, like it flattens out. I stop thinking about what's new and I just start thinking about what I like.
I think that's great.
I mean, you said something to me the other night when we were hanging out where you were just like, is it okay if old stuff is just better?
I'm ready. I'm ready to make that call. I don't know. Look, I think thousands of people tune into this podcast for cutting edge takes. I feel like it's finger on the pulse. What's new? What's next? Right?
When you're back here, do you listen to like old Power 99 mixes?
If I still had a Walkman, I would. Yeah. No, I mean, I generally do think. I think the thought behind all of this is like, can we find a way on our hyper contemporary podcast full of youthful references and TikTok clips to also celebrate things that we have loved for longer?
So
because I do think there's a difference.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between our connection to things. Like and we're going to talk about Winning Time in a second. Like I'm going to watch every episode of that show. I really like watching that show. I do not think in 10 years we will be talking about that
Winning
show.
Time.
Yeah. Which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to be talking about new stuff, but I think I like older stuff more.
Let's talk about Winning Time. Let's talk about these shows being back.
Okay.
So,
and I have a surprise for you at the end of the podcast. I know you like surprises. He's looking at me like I'm crazy. It's going to be good. We're at a bar. We're going to have fun.
Okay. So Winning Time was one of these shows that I actually found surprising that you warmed to so quickly.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I know that you like basketball and
Yeah.
you're like,
not anymore, actually. Not after the recent news out of our home
dude,
city.
what the fuck?
It just
We're
sucks.
recording this on, what day is it?
Today's Tuesday.
So I guess this is like our pod for the week, essentially. I might do a solo Lioness pod.
You're
later.
going to do a special ops Lioness Tamer pod, and I will listen to it.
If it's solo, will you listen to it?
That's the only way I want to listen to it. If you
I can't do what you do. I can't just do like 25 minutes uninterrupted monologue.
You don't think so?
No.
I want you to do it like, remember that guy Art Bell?
Yeah.
He's the radio DJ.
He's
would
talking
be
about like UFOs and
yeah,
stuff,
and he'd
right?
be like on all night and just like chain smoking and talking about space. I want that. You don't think you can do that?
No.
Okay.
Winning Time is back. following the basically. So I did a Prestige TV pod with House about it with the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
Starts out, we get like this sort of we're thrown into 1984, even though the first season ends at the end of the 1980 season. And this is like the height of Showtime, the height of Pat Riley with the slick back hair.
He's the head coach.
Adrian Brody is giving like a gladiator speech to these guys on the bus. Boston is being portrayed as like, speaking of Gladiator, basically like Germanic territory in the beginning of Gladiator. And it's pretty fun. And then we flash back, we go like, because one of my major questions about Winning Time is like the pacing of it. Like, how are you going to do a season per season? How long are they planning on doing this? How long can they keep this cast together? Because a lot of the faces remain the same over the course of 5, 6, 7, 8 years with the Lakers. What'd you think of the new season? What'd you think of the first episode?
Well, I mean, I kind of already burned my preface, which is to say, I really like the show and I'm going to keep watching it.
Right.
And it is, I think, we can talk about specifics. We should also pull out and talk about the macro, which is this and Last of Us are similar to me in some ways in that they are proof of concept for what I imagine our friend and longtime listener, Casey Bloys, communicates much more artfully when he's talking to David Zaslav and the bigger higher ups at Warner Brothers Discovery as to what they can do that other places can't, which is class shit up. There is a version of this show, no disrespect, that could be, movie of the week. It could be on the History Channel, which they make fine things, but it's not, you're not going to get Oscar winner Adrian Brody as Pat Riley. You're not going to get John C. Reilly giving one of the best performances he's given in a long time. He never gives bad ones as Jerry Buss, a character who prior to this, I don't think anyone of us would have considered to be like the most.
Yeah, I can't wait for them to do like an amazing character study of Jerry Buss.
Exactly. I've not wasted too much of my life concerned about his psychology, and yet I'm drawn in.
Yeah.
So the way that they're able to execute these shows, that I think that if you just Jenga tiled out a couple of the prestige pieces, it might collapse, is remarkable. And and I don't think they think of it this way, but if HBO's brand is this and every so often an Irma Vep for the heads, that works for me. You know what I mean? This is not exactly like a sellout show. What I found interesting about the second season was, if you go back and watch the pilot of Winning Time, which Adam McKay directed, I believe.
I think so.
It was Adam McKay the fuck out.
Yes.
It was,
direct to camera commentary, a bunch of different film stocks, like swooping all around, like really super energetic, kinetic filmmaking. On-screen
commentary written in, crossed out, stuff like that. And
partially out of necessity, because I think they were very conscious of like taking what's pretty racy, like content and like making it a little bit more like ironically palatable for 2022 when it came out.
Yeah. And also I think really leaning into the concept that they were taking liberties here, that this was not a documentary, that they knew that there were things that they were going to get pushback on, and knew that there were things that they were quite fully like conflating, or if not inventing out of whole cloth. So there was style in addition to the substance, which frankly was pretty compelling. Like I knew some things about that. I didn't actually know about like Jack McKinney and falling off his bike, and all the drama that was baked in reality to that season helped the first season.
You know what I think about a lot of the stories that came out of the first season, and even for the second season as well, is sports writing used to be amazing, because like everything that happens in Winning Time seems to have like a 3,000 word Sports Illustrated story about it, where they're like deeply reporting it
with different access too. And as you see in the second season already, like information as currency and as weapons being leveraged by journalists to almost affect the stories that they're covering. So anyway, this is a long preamble to say those stylistic things slowly started to leach away, I think, in the first season, partly because Adam McKay wasn't directing them and people didn't want to imitate his style, but also because, like all TV shows, you could start with a style guide, but you basically become a TV show.
Well, this is the fascinating thing with this show, is like, I actually find that it's zeroed in on what it wants to do visually. To your point, it has gotten rid of some of the meta stuff, although there's still some direct camera.
Yeah.
Like, can you believe how crazy Boston is kind of stuff?
Yeah. Or like there's the on Magic's cast, the mouth starts talking to his knee, his injured knee is talking to him through lipstick.
But, we rarely get to see shows evolve very much anymore because I mean, you'll see sometimes with sitcoms, like they'll level out a little bit more. Like I think when we first started doing the pod, it was not uncommon to see a show discover itself over the course of a bunch of episodes. Whereas now I feel like because especially with something as expensive as Winning Time, they have to like really kind of have it all soup to nuts figured out.
Yeah.
So I was almost surprised to see how little it had changed in the second season.
But my thing is, I agree with you to some degree, but I think that the way that it's changed is that it has just become more conventional, which is not a bad decision. You know, I think you can sometimes feel the sweat of the writers being like, how are we going to make an episode of television out of,
right? Like, what's the tension
out of the narrative, you know? And so, okay, well, Kareem had a baby and Magic was having, okay, so we're going to twin these ideas of fatherhood or parenthood. We're going to do, I mean, that's TV 101. That's fine. But what I found kind of surprising in the second season so far is that the reason, almost like the reason the show seems to exist in the second season is to be like, Magic Johnson is a hero.
Yeah.
Which is surprising because Magic Johnson in real life, that is also his brand and his story. And it seemed in the first season that with the kind of like visual flair and just kind of not giving a fuck about the historical record.
Yeah,
more
like if it was
going off
if there was
vibes.
like some game, they might be like it was like a last second 3, and it was like actually they were up 8.
But also a little bit like behind the icon, like, you know, Pat Riley didn't know what he was going to do with his life before he became legendary architect of heat culture, something that you're passionate about.
Look, I like 2 things. It's Leap Year, Taylor Sheridan, and fucking heat culture.
Frankly, that's the same thing.
I know.
I think Pat Riley probably loves Lioness.
Do you think I should start like a kind of lifestyle called Taylor culture?
Talk me through it.
And just like maybe like a men's recovery project where it's just like we watch Wind River and think about how to like.
Do you go outside in like very cold temperatures and bellow? Like, what do you
speak to horses? And so when I'm doing my solo pod, my guest is going to be a horse. And the horse is just going to be like, we're on the same page, brother.
I think to be clear, the horse won't be mic'd. You'll just be talking to the horse.
That's
because that will put you at ease.
Solo, I don't know what to look at. Like with you, I'm staring right into your soul, or I look at Twitter.
Yeah, the ratio has been shifting. I've talked about this recently on the podcast that like I always remembered a profile of the celebrity chef Ming Tsai. It was in the New Yorker. I saw the issue recently on my father's bedside table. It was from like 1999. And it was like, how did he learn to become?
Was your dad like, I'm going to get to that one?
Good on him. It's a Wellesley, Massachusetts. There's a fusion restaurant, the cuisine of Asia. But then Ming Tsai was
Nobody knows your dad, so it's just really funny.
That's accurate.
Yeah, it is. It's good.
My dad ordered an appetizer that was like a terrine, you know, like duck liver or something, and it was served on toast. So it was like an appetizer to share. But one thing about my dad, like great, enjoys gustatory pleasures, but doesn't know, like couldn't identify a vegetable. Like if you put 3 vegetables in front of him and you're like, which one is a pepper, he wouldn't know.
Okay.
So I looked over to see if he was enjoying this appetizer, and he was sawing away at it with his knife and fork. And I was like, you know, you can pick it up. It's like a pizza or like a toast, you know? And he goes, well, it's just a lot of bones. And I was like, that's bread.
Yeah. That sounds like something a Taylor Sheridan character
would say.
Like,
so it is. Yeah, but a Taylor Sheridan character, upon finding out that it was bread, would throw out the plate.
Yeah.
Right?
What's funny is that like you have this imitation of your dad.
Yeah.
But sometimes as we've gotten older, I'll just tell you that you sometimes text like your dad unaware of that.
This is what happens.
So you'll like take a picture of like a new house on the beach and be like, look at this monstrosity.
I did that.
Like, is this Danny's dad?
That's true. Look, we just, you know, we have what our models, right?
Yeah, right.
So to finish a thought that was irrelevant when I started it, Ming Tsai got good at TV because he taped a picture of his kids below the camera. So he was like teaching his kids how to cook.
Oh, that's nice.
So you can tape a picture of a horse
to my laptop.
To your laptop. You could cut, yeah. And then just
when I talk about what work going on in Syria.
Is there anything about your life that you feel like is not Taylor Sheridan influenced?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're like mutually respectful relationship with your wife.
There's a really solid marriage at the core of Lioness. There's a lot of trust, a lot of understanding.
Is this the Dr. Dave one?
Dave Annabelle and Zoe Saldana.
I'm interested. So I would say, having seen some of it, I wouldn't call that like marriage of the year. I feel like there were some fault lines.
I just think it's like they're two adults who respect one another, you know?
I think you should run this by Phoebe and be like, this is how I want you to see our life. I am the lioness. And sometimes I have to go out into the field.
Yeah.
And while I'm out, you fix kids' faces or whatever. But when I come home, the lioness needs to be fed, right? Is she the lioness? No.
The program is Lioness, the Lioness program.
But she's the lion tamer in that analogy. She's P.T. Barnum.
So. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway. Go back to my Magic Johnson point.
Your point was like, it's pretty valid, which is that, and it speaks to my largest question I have about this, which is a really annoying one, which is somewhat, who is this for? I find it really fascinating that you, as someone who is like, I am broadly aware of this story, but I'm not a Jack McKinney expert. I'm not like a Paul Westhead expert. I'm not like in the minds, like reading about the system. Mm-hmm. That you are finding it probably a little bit more tantalizing than I am. Whereas like, I think I want way more basketball and way less like, gosh, is Magic going to claim this illegitimate child? Will he get together with Cookie? Spoiler, he does.
What?
Yeah. And like, I think that they're doing something interesting with the Bus family. There's a lot of like Succession flavoring in the way that they've set up like the kids there. But they have like a little bit of a, we all know how this works out issue.
Yeah, if you know the story, I can't imagine there's that much drama. If you know the story, I think the show still does offer. I mean, you could speak to this more than I could, but it's very charming. And I keep coming back to that like every time there might be a slow moment or a slow scene that I'm not feeling as much, or I'm like I think Quincy Isaiah is like giving a very strong performance that has now become the backbone of the show.
Yeah, but
I agree with you. Like whether Magic will grow into the man and leader that we all want him to be feels a little narratively inert and almost easy.
Yeah.
Like it is weird that he's just like it's a hero's journey all of a sudden this season so far. But then it cuts away and it's like Hadley Robinson, I think is her name, who plays Jeannie Buss. So I think it's great talking to Gabby Hoffman, who's just great in this part as Claire. Norm Nixon's real life son, Devon, plays his father.
Plays Norm Nixon.
Awesome. Every time he's on the screen, just knocks it. I was going to use a baseball analogy. That's irrelevant. That's not right. He
sinks it from long downtown.
Triple doubles.
Yeah.
That's not nothing, you know. But the who's it for thing is I mean, they're just making it.
Yeah.
Like it just is emerging. A lot of good effort is being put into it. It's a great ensemble cast. Do you feel like when you watch a show like that, and we watch and read a lot of things actually from those eras, from like the 70s and early 80s.
Yeah, I'm reading something right now from the mid 80s. The Sports Writer by Richard Ford.
What do you think it would be like to be around people who are drinking that much and smoking that much?
I mean, I guess it wasn't that our 20s.
Never all. I mean, I'm just use I statements.
I saw a picture. I think I shared it with you. A picture of myself from 2003-ish.
There's 3. Yeah, I think I was there.
In a bar.
It was hi-fi.
And I was what I was doing, what was in the ashtray, which was right in front of me. So there's no ambiguity about whose ashtray that was, is like truly stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's grotesque.
You put in work.
Yeah.
But the thing that's, okay. So
you mean like, what's it like to drink like an old fashioned at like every hour on the hour?
Like Adrian Brody is playing someone who is not too far removed from being an elite athlete and is chain smoking and then drilling one of the greatest basketball players of all time, like full steam ahead with Marlboro breath. Like, that's wild.
But if everybody had it, nobody noticed it.
So here's my question. Do you think the people of that era were better athletes than we could ever imagine and like actually better than people with hyperbaric chambers and plant-based diets today they could accomplish that? Or was the ceiling lowered so much because everyone was hungover and coughing all the time?
Or was like the constant use of cigarettes like part of their instant recovery? Like I know that like knee injuries took a while, but like guys didn't take nights off back then.
Knee injuries aren't that serious according to Winning Time because Magic has his knee opened up by 1980 doctors, sits in an ice tank for a while, and then becomes the MVP.
Yeah,
again.
well, this was a magical recovery. It's the like his 100 days of being away from the team, and then he's like, I'm fucking back.
Can I? This is a more personal pod than we've done in a while
because
we're
just
here
like chill out. Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm sorry if we're not going. Like we can talk about the Maestro trailer.
This is what happens when Kai is out of the country. So yesterday, woke up and I went for a run here along the river. Beautiful. This is a great city.
Yeah.
because I was in a hotel, I didn't have access to my normal like morning routines. So I woke up.
Stretching, you mean?
No, like make coffee and then
okay.
like sit around and do nothing, staring into space for an hour and then going out running.
Text me 17,000
about monstrosities I've seen. So
Brie Larson couldn't act with the cat because she was allergic. What do you think?
First of all, you sent that to me. But so then I had a strong coffee out in the world and then put down the coffee cup and then started sprinting. And let me tell you something.
Did it work?
It was incredible.
Yeah.
I was a golden god. I was just there was no wind because it's fucking 85 degrees with 80% humidity here. But I was racing along the river paths, just passing people. I've never felt better.
And then your left arm went numb.
I just smelled toast. But I just wonder if maybe my one experience yesterday and watching 2 episodes of season 2 of Winning Time has made me rethink a lot about what we think we know about sports medicine.
Are you a big like body hacking guy? Are you into like body optimization?
Like I'm going to live forever?
Yeah.
Do you see how many bags of Hers potato chips I walked into this bar with? I think you know the answer.
2:00.
We're drinking frosty ice waters. No, do you look at this stuff?
I feel like I'm much more aware of it now because of Instagram. So like my ads on stories are all for like, because I think if you do, I got a neck pillow and that was a real rabbit hole for Instagram. They were like, oh, this guy's interested in sleep. So a lot of like over the counter hipster Ambien, a lot of like neck things, stuff for like neck pain.
Yeah.
Which I'm not above. I bought a pillow off of that.
You mean like you bought a pillow off of something you were serviced?
Because some girl was like, this pillow is so cold. It's awesome.
Was it Brie Larson? She's like, this helped me get through the scenes with the cat. This pillow is
stuffed with cat hair. They put a whole cat up in this pillow.
I can't wait to see what the algorithm suggests now that it knows you're into horses. It's like just ivermectin ads all the time. Like,
that's also Taylor culture.
I think it kind of is. Well, if you're really Taylor culture, you have a lot of ivermectin anyway.
Yeah, because you get the horse.
So you might as well.
Yeah.
No, I read like there was an article. Was it David Marchese's interview column where he was interviewing someone?
There's no social distancing like owning your own ranch in Texas.
Oh yeah, I agree. That is the ultimate in social distancing. No, there was an interview with one of those guys who's just like, I am going to do everything in my power to give myself the possibility of living to be over 100.
Well, there's the dude who like is using his son as a blood bag. Have you read about that guy? And he's like every day, like my whole entire day is about living forever. I'm being completely serious. And he's like, he gets like transfusions from his kid.
Is it Ashley Schaefer?
But then there's another guy. I think his name's Andrew Huberman.
I think this is what I'm thinking.
And
of.
He's like, the first thing you should do is you should like, as soon as you get out of bed, is without having coffee or anything, is go outside and stare at the sun for 15 minutes.
That's Taylor culture. That's also
like,
that's his culture
against
too.
A bunch of things I was raised. First, don't look directly at the sun.
I remember being told that. Yeah.
Second, brush your teeth when you wake up. Like
also good.
Yeah. And this guy's like, no, just take the pure solar rays needs to get inside your head first.
I'm like, here's my new vibe as a middling podcaster in middle age. New stuff, not that great. Everything else in moderation. It's fine.
Like staring at the sun?
Staring at the sun. Yeah, stare at it a little bit. A little bit. Don't say all the way yes or no. It's fine. But there's no nuance anymore.
I know.
No nuance anymore. Okay, so Winning Time.
Winning Time's good. Winning Time's good. I think I have like, I'm being a little bit of an annoying basketball nerd. The same things that just did not bother me at all about Moneyball, where people were like, Moneyball really, there was too much Jermaine Dye erasure in Moneyball or Mark Mulder erasure.
Well,
I mean, I didn't care about that.
From everything I've read recently, Michael Lewis is an unimpeachable journalist. He's just buttoned up.
Do you think that was his bad?
What happened to Michael Orr?
Yeah.
No, I don't. We don't know what happened. We don't know.
We can't say.
We simply can't say.
But in Moneyball, for instance, I don't care about the contributions of that pitching staff.
Okay.
Or the fact that they had Johnny Damon and Jermaine Dye. I care about Billy Beane
and Scott Hatterberg
making trades. Yeah, getting Rincon. But with Winning Time, for some reason, I'm like, well, that was not exactly how it happened.
But isn't that because one of the issues with Winning Time is that it doesn't have one specific point of view? Like if the purpose of the show was this is about the bus family and the front office.
Or it's about magic.
And reinventing basketball for a modern era.
Right.
That would be one thing, but it is all of the things, and it is trying to give us the soap opera everywhere. And I've said this a billion times. There are many, many greater sins than being entertaining, and it's very entertaining. Yeah. And to give the show even more credit, like the first season did build up some pathos, like the Sally Field character arc. Like it was enjoyable because it was a sports movie at its heart, which follows a certain playbook.
Can
and
I
is
ask you
generally
like a very
entertaining.
silly question? I don't know how long the second episode is, but the first one's like an hour 6.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't as long as that.
Okay. But it was, how long was it? Like
it was in the 50s, I think. Yeah.
I'd love to see a slightly tighter version of it.
Jam-packed. I mean, I think that's also why they gave us that's why they started us right in the thick of it.
Right.
With the team that everybody thinks the show is going to be about.
Right.
Because at least through 2 episodes.
The first season starts with Magic's announcement, his HIV announcement.
Oh, that's right. But it's not the actor, right? Like, didn't it start with the real footage?
I think backwards? They cut back and forth. I think maybe there's some stuff with the actor.
But this season, I mean, spoilers through 2 and also spoilers through
the
living
80s.
in reality.
Yeah, right.
They crap out in the playoffs. And that doesn't have the same narrative arc. So letting everyone know, we're going to go to Boston. The Larry Bird stuff is coming.
Right. But like in 4 years?
No, it's going to happen this season. My guess is this season is going to get us all the way there.
Okay.
I don't know their plan, but I would guess one more season leading through the HIV
there's been
announcement.
Rumors that they could go all the way through Kobe.
No, I want Andrew Bynum. I want to get, you know what I want the last season to be about? The
bubble.
The 2027 first round pick. Who's getting it? It's the one asset they've got left. That's what I want.
This episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. New Year's resolutions are fun the first couple of weeks. Then you kind of maybe conveniently forget about them halfway through January. No shame. It happens to us all. But this year I have a foolproof plan, at least when it comes to saving money. Just switch to Mint Mobile and you're done. Goal accomplished, because for a limited time, their wireless plans are $15 a month when you buy a 3-month plan. The great thing about Mint Mobile is there's no jaw-dropping monthly bills or unexpected overages, and all plans come with unlimited talk and text. Get this new customer offer today at mintmobile.com/watch. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Inspired by the life of the savvy and ambitious Colombian businesswoman Griselda Blanco comes a new Netflix original limited series. Griselda tells the story of a devoted mother who, with her lethal blend of charm and relentless savagery, creates one of the most powerful cartels in history. Witness Sofia Vergara's captivating transformation into the godmother of the underworld. Griselda, now streaming only on Netflix.
Love the way you look this wedding season at Men's Warehouse. With the range of sizes from extra small to big and tall. Explore top styles at prices for any budget, including designer suit and tux rentals starting at just $159. With over 600 locations, in-store consultations, and easy online booking, there's a reason why couples choose Men's Warehouse to find their perfect fit. Men's Warehouse. Love the way you look.
TaxAct knows you don't look forward to taxes. TaxAct doesn't even look forward to taxes, and TaxAct is a tax software company. It's basically TaxAct's whole thing. If TaxAct did things over, maybe TaxAct would end up teaching kindergarten or leading fly fishing tours. But that's a different story for a different ad. So why don't we just agree that taxes aren't fun, but you still have to do them? TaxAct's filing software can help you do that. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
Should we do some Reservation Dogs and then we can do your surprise topic?
Yes.
Okay, Reservation Dogs back for its 3rd and final season. Andy and I have lamented this being the end. We've kind of gone back and forth about this. It's like that second season ends perfectly. Like that is the culmination in a lot of ways of the story the show is sort of telling about these kids wanting to not necessarily escape, but experience the wider world. They want to get to California. They do. They have this odyssey across California. And then the end of the second season, spoilers if you haven't seen the second season, talking about the first few episodes.
They win the NBA championship at the end of the first season. They become
the 2027 draft pick collectively. Bear says he wants to stay in California.
At the end of the second season. But it's also that they complete the circle of the Daniel story, which has haunted it. And I think that it's worth saying sometimes I'll just say I do this. I maybe other viewers of things do too, but kind of I do. I think many people do probably fall in love with the version of the show that they think they're watching. And one of the ways that we've talked about Reservation Dogs over 2 stunning seasons has really focused on the fact that, oh my God, this is what I like to think of as like the dream type of show. It is a sturdy vessel that can contain almost any type of story. And it does, there's horror stories, there's flashback stories, there's romance, there's straight up comedy. And it always, always surprises. I think that is rarely the goal of a creator or showrunner, especially in the modern age, and double especially when the creator is a filmmaker like Sterling Harjo, who grew up telling stories with beginnings, middles, and ends. That's what made him. And so I think that my enjoyment of the show came from how surprising it felt to sort of drift away from the idea of these 4 kids and their trauma is the story of the show, which caused me to kind of just overlook the fact that central story was wrapped up at the end of the second season and caused me to say things, a couple months ago being like, I'm angry the show is ending. How dare it deprive us of all of the stories of this extended cast in this universe?
That was, I think, right around the time that you were like, Barbie looks like the all-time L.
So you think maybe I was wrong about that house by the beach? That it was just my typical hot take, and maybe I'll grow to love it. People like a little spice, don't they?
You're the best, man.
Never
People
any receipts.
Yeah,
no one ever comes with those. Anyway, all of this is to say, I love the show. I do wish it went forever, but when I watched the 3rd season premiere, it was the first time where I felt, maybe they do know what they're doing, but B, maybe it is time to end, because this was the first time watching the show where I felt the seams, to undo some of the emotional catharsis of the last episode of the last season, to get everyone back, but not everyone, felt manipulative isn't the word, because all TV storytelling is manipulative, but it felt heavier handed than I was used to from the show. Didn't make it less entertaining, doesn't make me less excited to watch the rest of the season, but I was kind of surprised by it.
The 3rd episode, the Dear Lady origin story episode, is like probably among the best things we're going to see on TV this year, right?
That's the thing. It's still that show.
If it's not the group hanging out, I guess sometimes it's like you have like these ideas about what a show is in your head, and then when you actually like go through all the episodes, you're like, oh yeah, like this show makes more left turns than it does drive straight lines anyway. Yeah. Right. So like you get these little portraits and these little short stories. Like I almost think of it as a collection of short stories in a lot of ways. Whereas to your point, maybe those 2 seasons are the novel, and this is now portraying it more as like a short story collection. And in those short stories, like they're obviously expressing themselves in a much more metaphorical way. Like those first 2 episodes of the 3rd season are much more psychedelic and much more like image heavy than they are like coherent, like linear narrative. Although they have a quest story engine to them. It's just they're about like, I don't know. I find it to be, this season's been like challenging in a good way. Like, and also in a, like this is what you wanted to do in this 3rd season that was different.
It's just such an interesting representative of whatever TV is now, because I think that FX probably does this better than most places, or at least from what we've heard from people who've had creative relationships there. They really do the thing that everyone says they do, which is we listen to what the creator wants. Because I do think they certainly, as professionals in the business, understand the appeal of having a franchise, of something that can just run. I mean, the way they treated What We Do in the Shadows, which I love. And full disclosure, I have not watched a frame of the season.
I mean, What We Do in the Shadows could be their new It's Always Sunny. Like that show could just go for 20 seasons.
And they understand that. And they did the kind of, they did the Moneyball GM thing where they were like, we're going to renew you for 2 more seasons right now. Cost controlled commitment. We're going to do that. It's kind of like what the Phillies did with Scott Kingery. And that really worked out. You know what I mean? Though you wrap him up young, get him FX boss Matt Klentak.
Yeah.
That's just for the local heads.
All of them. All there.
I think they're actually in this room.
Yeah.
All of this is to say, like, Reservation Dogs could have been that, but maybe it couldn't. Maybe this is sort of just a straw man argument because Sterling Harjo is never going to make that show. He's never going to just devote the next 10 years of his life to just hanging out with these exact kids. I still think, I said this a couple of weeks ago, they're going to be in business with him for a while. Yeah. And we will see some of these performers in different ways. And like Devery Jacobs, who plays Laura Dannon, her story, I mean, there was a feature about her in New York Magazine, but I think it's fascinating and really awesome that she's started as a cast member, joined the writer's room for the second season, and is now directing.
And is she doing any of that on Echo? Because I know she's in Echo, right?
I don't know if she is, but I think that it was this, I don't know, like this is, maybe it's because I was just wearing a Phillies cap, but I am thinking about this, like the idea of like building homegrown talent.
Yeah.
Like when Chris Storer came on to talk about The Bear, and he was talking about how Io, who's obviously the co-star of the show, but is also...
But she was producing on the Copenhagen episode, right?
Yes, and she was trailing him on the dinner on the big Christmas episode.
6, yeah. Right,
6, because and throwing out ideas and contributing because she's going to direct, you know, in the future on the show and probably in other things in her life. And like, that's invaluable. And it's really smart. And it's especially smart if you can keep it within, if you have people like Io or Devery who are like part of your team.
Yeah.
Allow them to contribute other ways, which is, you know, I thought Scott Kingery would be like a little like mini coach on the field, you know? I really held on to that guy's stock for a while.
Third? Was it?
He was like a super utility. You know, he could play third, shortstop, maybe a little outfield.
Okay.
And everyone's like, when they drafted him, they were like, he's another Chase Utley.
Where is he now?
Not in the major leagues.
On the 4-6s ranch.
I think he was, you know what he's doing right now? Let me look at the clock. I think he's staring at the sun. I think he's a late riser and he's just looking straight up into the sun.
All right. What's your mystery topic?
Okay. So I want to preface this. Chris has no idea what I'm doing and he may hate this.
But, I wish you would have done it earlier.
No, I feel like everything's going just as it should. Okay. We are in Philadelphia, ships passing in the night. And I don't know if you know this, but at the moment...
We're docked at the same dock right now, actually.
Oh, that's true. And then
you will go your way out.
Upriver?
Yeah.
Right now, the beloved local snack company, Hers, is doing they have like special taste of the city chips.
Yes.
Like where they have like, you can vote. I guess they've done this before, like new flavored chips. And so I brought them.
Okay.
And I know this is...
You want to do a taste test?
Yeah, I know this is a little food news.
Yeah.
Shout out to Juliet and Jacoby. But I'm just curious. We've never done anything like this. So I want to introduce you to these flavors. This is happening live.
Our producer Kai today is filling in for Kaya. And I'm sure the combination of two guys recording in a bar at 2 p.m. while also eating chips.
Yeah, you hear the crinkle live on air. Yeah. Okay, so here are the flavors.
And we promise we're not doing this to you, Kai, because you're from Texas. We're just doing it.
We're just. This is a fun hazing thing. I'm sure we did this to Kaya too. Okay, so here are the flavors. Ready now? Do any of these sound appealing? Like, what is your potato chip background? Like,
it's gotten very adventurous.
You have?
Yeah, I've gotten like really? I was used to be like a pretty much plain barbecue or sour cream and onion guy. Okay. And I believe Hers has been experimenting. Mm-hmm. There was some horseradish in the mix a couple years ago. That was really delightful.
Okay.
I'll grab, what are the ones that are always in cheese shops that are Spanish?
Oh yeah, the Jose Andres brand that has like
why is it like exclusively
ham
what they stock in cheese shops?
Because they're fancy. Because they're expensive. Right. They're not going to put like green bag Hers in there. Well, I wish they did.
Maybe they should.
Okay, so here's one. This is tomato pie flavored, coming from a bakery in Norristown. Wait, let me give you the contenders before you try. Chris is already opening the bag. Number 2, Korean barbecue wings from Mike's Korean Barbecue.
Okay.
Now, I have to be honest, I couldn't find the third. The third flavor is actually bitter disappointment. It's actually the official flavor of Philadelphia.
I don't think so. I think we're on the upswing.
We are. The third flavor is John's roast pork, which is the one I most wanted to try.
In the store.
So Chris is trying the Korean ones first. And I want to know a couple things. I want to know what you think of the chip, and I want to know if you think it represents the city that birthed us.
I don't think I've ever had Korean food in Philadelphia.
Apparently, Mike's is quite good. I know.
That's delicious. I don't know what I would eat that with, or if I would just eat that solo.
They're pretty good.
Yeah.
Smoky.
It's an elegant flavor.
I feel like there's a little like
it's telling a story. This is like the third season of Reservation Dogs. Getting into a more of a symbolist kind of story.
But like, would you have this with a hogie? Like, no. Or would you just have this plain?
No. Did you just say hoagie like that on purpose? Right,
instead of saying hoagie? I'll say hoagie.
Do you think this will be our last pot ever?
I hope so.
That's That's the one.
Really? Because my worry about this one,
That's a banger.
it's a very red chip,
Tomato
very
pie.
ridged.
Without having the roast pork one, tomato pie is the order.
My worry is this would be like ketchup flavored with like a dusting of
delicious.
cheap oregano. Okay. That's really good.
Yeah.
That actually tastes like something.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think tomato, but like, do you think people who've never been to Philadelphia, who will never eat these chips nor listen to this podcast,
Okay.
do you think this is representative of, because we're both very high on our home city now. I mean, we never weren't. But
Yeah,
like,
but this is we're having a
there's good
renaissance.
food here.
Yeah.
There's good. There's great running. You know, you just
Easy access to coffee.
easy access to coffee and then exercise
Yeah.
trails. My only concern is I always think of tomato pie as a Jersey thing,
I never really associated tomato pie with Philly per se.
but also we don't hang out in Norristown.
But
a lot,
I
which
would
is where
eat these
Cora Palese Bakery
solo,
is.
or I'd eat these with a sandwich.
Do you think that? I mean, I kind of wish all cities did this. What
I'm
would
sure
the-
a lot of cities do it. We're just not giving them their proper, like I'm sure Tulsa has like a,
Do you think 3-6's Ranch has a
it's
proprietary
4 6s. Don't try to fucking
3-6?
Don't take a 6 away from Taylor.
It's 4 6s?
4 6s. It's like half of West Texas.
Do you think they eat chips there or just jerky?
I think that I think Taylor Sheridan has evolved. I think Taylor culture is a non-chip zone, if I had to guess.
Do you think Taylor Sheridan is into body hacking? Are you worried about what you're going to say?
I actually do.
I mean, you would have to be to produce that amount of scripted content on a regular basis, right? I think he probably has a cup of coffee before
You're
he goes
the
running.
writer.
You know
Tell
what I
me
mean?
about it. How hard must that be?
I'm on strike. I have no idea.
Okay.
What about the, you want to talk Maestro before we get out of here?
Sure. I mean, that's an interesting way to go out, is that Bradley Cooper's...
How about you talk about Maestro while I eat chips to the microphone? This is going to be Kai's greatest accomplishment ever producing this.
I think it looks gorgeous. And I'm a very, very, very interested in the story of Leonard Bernstein. Bradley Cooper's new film, Maestro, which comes out for award season on Netflix, starring him as Leonard
Well,
Bernstein.
Netflix, it's going to be in theaters too, right? One of those. Mhm.
Netflix really always supporting theaters.
Love theaters.
I went to a movie. I went to go see Talk to Me.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I had there's been a lot of stories in papers recently, like in the Washington Post and stuff about like, have we forgotten how to go to the movies? Like, because behavior's been so bad at Barbie and Oppenheimer.
It has?
Yeah. Well, and I also had that thing happen to me when I went to theater camp, and someone just like filmed theater camp while we were there.
What?
Yeah. And
That's
I was
terrible.
like, this is an overstatement. Maybe it's just summer. It's like, no, there's no erosion of the social contract.
Right.
And then I seriously almost got into a fight with 2 teenage girls that talked to me. What? It's just like, will you shut the fuck up?
Wait, what were they doing?
Talking the entire movie.
Well, what's the name of the movie?
That's not why they were talking. They were
Are you
like,
sure?
Joe, this is so scary. This is scary. Are you scared? Oh my God. Like, they were just like the entire movie. And there was like 8 people in the theater.
But it wasn't because, like, look, there's a tradition of talking to movies, of some types of movies. Like, I remember very clearly seeing the Michael Bay movie, The Rock.
Uh-huh.
And there's a scene, I don't know when the last time you
I think if it's like a collective, like we are all doing it, that's fine. If you're just like, I'm dictating that me and my friend are going to talk the entire horror movie about like regret and trauma with kid smashing his face into things.
Not going to see it.
Yep. So, and then imagine that, but imagine like two TikTok girls talking the entire time.
I agree. I would not like that, but I also will never forget seeing The Rock at the Marple 10 in like 1994 or whatever. And there's a scene early on. I don't know if longtime listeners remember this. I've seen it recently. You did a rewatchables probably, right?
I think so.
Where Sean Connery gets out of prison, right?
Yeah.
And then he has long hair.
And he gets a
He's been in
haircut.
prison.
Yeah.
He gets his haircut, and there are these women sitting behind me in the theater. And as soon as, and I haven't seen this movie in 20 years, so forgive my accuracy, but as soon as the hairdresser emerges in the scene, they just started tut-tutting. They're like, and they start snipping at his hair. And it's Sean Connery. He looks great, and they're like, oh.
Well, it's also Sean Connery's wearing a wig, even when it's short there. Yeah.
And then they basically were not, they were then casting aspersions or making commentary about the sexuality of the hairdresser.
I see.
In 1994. And I've never forgotten this experience. But that, I don't support that kind of talk back or hate speech, but I remember seeing that movie.
In any case, I think Maestro looks amazing.
We're talking about Maestro.
The teaser trailer came out, and a little bit of mix of black and white, a little color. It seems to center Carey Mulligan, who plays Leonard Bernstein's wife in the movie. They have an amazing story. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
It surprised me, the trailer. It does look really beautiful and really classy. I mean, he seems to be profoundly influenced by pictures of the era, like actually framing things like old black and white photographs of Leonard Bernstein. I feel like my main take on watching this was very like post Oppenheimer. Is this going to be a smash hit? Yeah. Because it's not a Christopher Nolan movie, but do people like history now? Like,
that would be cool if they did.
Well, like, is there suddenly a lane for this that people didn't? I mean, you already said it's going to be on Netflix, so we won't really get to find out if this could become a phenomenon. But I don't know. It suddenly felt more plausible to me. It did not seem like an ego project or a vanity project for Bradley Cooper. It suddenly seemed like something that could work because
this project has been, the Leonard Bernstein story has been like batted around a bunch. Like, I think Jake Gyllenhaal was interested in doing this for a while. Spielberg is executive producing this and had it for a while, had his eye on this. It's a good question about whether or not like historical films are going to have a moment. I don't think they ever really go out of style. Frankly, I find that a lot of the best directors, and we've talked about this, I know Sean has too, tend to make period pieces because you can go pre-cell phone, which like makes the storytelling feel a little bit less like shortcutty. Like, you don't have to just be like, I know how to get here, and I can just ask Google.
Well, also, and this ties into the winning time as well, which is like reality is the cheapest IP available. But it also is an opportunity. Executives feel more comfortable. Audiences potentially feel comfortable or have pre-existing curiosity, and then you can drape style on it, which is what, Oppenheimer is more than that, but it
obviously looks like Cooper's doing that.
Yeah. Are you still all in on BC?
I like him a lot.
Have you always had Cooper stock, like since Alias? I feel like
not Alias, but like, I like Limitless. I think he's like
Wedding Crashers.
Yeah. Certainly Wedding Crashers.
But like, when you bought stock in Young Hollywood, I feel like you spread money around. Like, I feel like you bought Bradley Cooper stock, but you also bought Ron Eldard and like Josh Lucas stock. I didn't buy Ron Eldard stock. No disrespect to him. Josh Lucas stock you had?
I had Josh Lucas stock.
How's that looking?
He was good in Ford versus Ferrari.
Is that subprime now? Who else did you? Oh no, you had a lot of.
He's like having a really nice ranch house somewhere,
What are you buying with that? What about Aaron Eckhart? Have you checked in with your financial advisor about that recently?
My mom was just watching The Core the other day, which Aaron Eckhart, it's him and Hilary Swank drilling into the center of the earth to restart the gravitational field.
Seems fine. No problems. No notes. Yep.
Why don't you write stories like that?
Because I'm on strike.
When you get off.
Even when I get off, I'm writing a Ron Eldard starring vehicle like the world has never seen. It's going to be a heist movie set on the 2-6's ranch. That way there'll be no litigation.
Well, it keep costs down.
Yeah. Well, they steal 2 of the 6's.
That's good.
That's the plan.
All right, let's wrap it up. These guys have been too generous with their real estate. Andy, it was wonderful to see you. This was a bizarre podcast, but I think we did a good job.
I think we did a great job. I think people are going to think that we were drinking, but it's early in the day.
I am not sure if I'm going to do another pod this week. I know that you're out, but I may or may not.
I think that your new career as a day drinking potato chip critic deserves.
I really hope that this is audible for Kai, and I hope people enjoy it.
Me too. Should I have hit record?
We'll be back together next Monday for sure.
Yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about.
Okay. Bye, guys.